Realistic Randy, Mediokr Best Sports Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. For those that are enjoying a 3-day weekend this weekend, congratulations to you. Hope you're enjoying this Saturday morning, or in the case of people in Minnesota and Minneapolis, this Saturday afternoon. Thanks for tuning in. A couple of things to talk about in regards to the Minnesota Vikings, and then later on, the Minnesota Timberwolves. It is All-Star Weekend, so it's good to see Josh Okogie was in the Rising Stars Challenge game last night. And then Karl Anthony Towns, he is now a 2-time All-Star. That's some good stuff. But first, in regards to the Minnesota Vikings, if you guys remember last offseason, there was the big Vikings Twitter battle, or I guess the big battle between Vikings Nation as far as Case Keenum or Kirk Cousins. Like, oh, we should have kept Case Keenum. No, we should bring in Kirk Cousins. And that was going on throughout the entire summer, the entire offseason, before the eventual signing of Kirk Cousins took place. And actually, I think Case Keenum, he's pretty much signed right away with the Denver Broncos. So I thought it was over with. I said to myself, Case Keenum, it was a one-year wonder. It was a lightning in a bottle type of season to where Pat Shurmur was the real star. If we were sitting here clamoring or banging down the doors for Pat Shurmur to come back and take over, I'd be down for that. I'd be right there with you. I'd be leading the charge. But as far as Case Keenum, no. Like, Pat Shurmur made Case Keenum who he was in 2017. Then we saw in Denver, it fell apart. Their coach got fired. And we saw this week, and I think this was on either Monday or Tuesday. So basically what I'm getting at, the long battle that we had last summer, Case Keenum versus Kirk Cousins, it suddenly came to light again this week. And I think this was either on Monday or Tuesday, in which this news broke out that the Baltimore Ravens agreed to trade quarterback Joe Flacco to the Denver Broncos. Now, I don't think the offseason has officially started, so they can't officially do it, but they've agreed in principle to make the trade. Okay, and then to what I said was, oh, okay, for Baltimore, they're trading Joe Flacco in favor of Lamar Jackson. I do have questions about Lamar Jackson as far as a pocket passing quarterback. But, you know, they're saying to themselves, Joe Flacco, we've seen enough of who he is. Yes, he won a Super Bowl title with us, but he hasn't really been that fantastic of a quarterback. Okay, fine. We'll ship him to the Denver Broncos. Then I immediately thought, oh, yeah, they're moving on from Case Keenum. A one-year rental of Case Keenum. Not even a 1 year. They signed him to like a 2-year deal. But the 1 year after his miraculous season, he fell apart. The Denver Broncos, they didn't make the playoffs. Now, the Vikings didn't either. Okay, I'll give you that. But Case Keenum wasn't anything spectacular for the Denver Broncos. Now that they've traded for Joe Flacco, they're now reportedly shopping Case Keenum to the open market. So they put him on the trade block. And you would think, now it's something about Minnesota that I've noticed, that where certain athletes, they're just endeared in our hearts forever. You know, we basically look at the underdog stories, and no matter what they do after that, oh, we love them forever. You know, whether it's Mike Zimmer or Case Keenum, it's just like, you know, he stunk in Denver, and we're now looking to bring him back. And you know what's funny? I posted this on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, in which I said, hey, let me guess. The Minnesota Vikings should all of a sudden try to bring back Case Keenum, right? I'm being very sarcastic when I said that. And then a couple of people was like, yeah, actually, like most people were like, no, come on, dude. Like, what are you talking about? But there were a couple of people that were like, yeah. And then the fire just got reflamed again when all of a sudden Mike Florio of NBC Sports and Pro Football Talk said, he wrote a column titled, "Could Case Keenum end up back in Minnesota?" I'm like, are you serious? What are you doing? The offseason, man. The offseason, I said this on my podcast on Score North, in which I ripped apart, not even ripped apart, I came after Matthew Collar, Phil Mackey, and Judd Zolgad, just bringing up the idea, should we go after Kyler Murray, which I could kind of see why they're saying that, or why they were suggesting this. But this, bring back Case Keenum, Mike Florio went into details, dog. This dude said, quote, "That possibility will be quickly dismissed because the Vikings have quarterback Kirk Cousins under center or under contract for 2 more years. He then went on to say, but let's not dismiss it immediately. If the Vikings could find a trade partner for the balance of Cousins' deal, they take a cap hit of only $2 million. And then he went on to break down actual possible trade partners that they could send Kirk Cousins. They're not trading away Kirk Cousins, Mike Florio. What is it with the national media, man? I'm telling you. You know what's funny? Back before it was Score North, it was 1500 ESPN. I was living in San Diego at the time, and I was just like, man, I need to find somebody, some station that talks about my Vikings, like, because the national media, they either just take a bleep on us when it's time to pick them on Sunday. Oh, Vikings versus somebody, and they'll always pick the somebody. They'll never pick the Vikings. Or whenever they would talk about the Vikings, like try to break them down, you could tell they never really paid attention to the Vikings. For instance, and I think this was last year. This was actually last offseason, I believe. Nick Easton went out with the injury, right? He was out with the injury during the offseason. And Nick Wright of FS1. Nick Wright of FS1 was talking about, oh, the Vikings, they're going to struggle. Oh, they lost Nick Easton, arguably their best offensive lineman from last year. I'm like, what? I guess arguably our best offensive lineman from 2017. What? No, it was Pat Elflein. It was Pat Elflein, or maybe you could make the argument for Riley Reef, but it was Pat Elflein for me anyway. But that's how I was like, man, I need to find somebody. And then I came across like Vikings Vent Line, and this was when Judd Zolgad was with what's his name, Jeff Dubé, whatever. Anyway, I've been listening to him ever since. But this brings me back to the point. The national media, man, I can't take y'all seriously during the offseason. Should the Vikings bring back Case Keenum? Hell no. No, you got Kirk Cousins. You need to stick with him. Case Keenum, he's done. He's proven that he could be a really solid backup. He's a really solid backup type quarterback. But as far as the only place I could see him maybe going and start, actually I could see two different places where he could go and possibly start, where maybe you could say these teams need some sort of starting material quarterback, and this is all that we have left out there. The Washington Redskins, Alex Smith, he's projected to miss all of 2019. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I think Teddy Bridgewater will end up going there. But the point is, he's a really solid backup quarterback, nothing more. When you got a guy like Pat Shurmur to prop him up, he looks fantastic. On an even playing field with everybody else, he's just okay. Now, getting back to our current quarterback, Kirk Cousins, what was interesting as far as balancing out the debate between Case Keenum versus Kirk Cousins, I'm hopeful that we can finally be over this. Kirk Cousins, this was on the 12th, so this must have been on Tuesday. This was on February 12th, so I think this was on Tuesday. He tweeted out something like a little giveaway, trying to be nice. And, I've always said Kirk Cousins just seems to be this super orchestrated dude. Like, he tweeted out this picture of him working out on the beach. Look at me throwing a football as an NFL quarterback on the beach. Got to keep my training regimen together, even though I'm on vacation. Or this other one, I guess he was sponsored, where he's, like, doing dumbbell shoulder presses. Like, look at me working out, trying to stay in shape during the offseason. It's like, okay, dude. Like, I don't know. He just seems really methodical in how he's trying to give off his public perception. But anyway, I'm sure he's got like 10 PR reps on his camp. This dude on the 12th, he tweeted out, "The season feels so far away, so I want to do a giveaway to keep all you Vikings fans excited. What do you want me to give away?" And he made a poll on Twitter. What do you want me to give away? A signed jersey, a signed football, a signed mini helmet, or other. Now, 71% said a signed jersey. But the mentions in this dude's Twitter post is outstanding. It was absolutely marvelous. I'm just going to read some of my personal favorites. So, again, what should I give away, Vikings fans? Your contract. Number 2, give away anything but the ball. Number 3, hang on to the football. You dropped too many already. Number 4, hey, Kirk, if you walked into McDonald's and ordered 84 million burgers and they only gave you 3 million burgers, would you want your money back? Number 5, you had enough giveaways during the season. We don't need anymore. And number 6, give away yourself to another team. This dude just can't win. Now, look, all the criticism that made my absolute day right there. I was laughing all damn day long. And all the criticism for Kirk Cousins is absolutely warranted. Okay, but what I'm saying is, should we trade for Case Keenum? Should we bring in Kyler Murray? No, this second year, address your offensive line. And then as long as you do that, then you can really judge Kirk Cousins after that. Now, if he falls apart and the season falls apart, then you can say put the pressure on him, bring in some quarterback or whatever. My personal preference is to tank. If everything falls apart in 2019, 2020, then in the 2020-2021 season, I would tank for Trevor Lawrence. That's just my personal preference. But you don't do that right now. You need to give this dude all the support he needs. But I absolutely get it, because there were too many times. It was very Sam Bradford-esque in 2018 to where He was basically, there was one time, I think this was in the Week 17 game against Chicago, where we were down like 10 points or double digits, whatever it was. And Kirk Cousins, he went 3 and out, whatever, and he started running back onto the field. And then all of a sudden, Mike Zimmer was like, what the hell are you doing? It was like maybe 5 minutes left in the game, right? Kirk Cousins, I guess we didn't do anything. We didn't get the first down, run back to the sidelines. And Mike Zimmer was like, what the hell are you doing? Get back out there and go for it on 4th down. Are you kidding me right now? So I'll give Mike Zimmer credit for that, for at least being like, you're not getting on the sidelines. You need to go out there and show it. He seems very passive at times, even though you're like that. You're like that. You want to see a little bit more aggression from Kirk Cousins. So as far as 2019 season, you need to fully support this dude. Give this dude all the resources and all the tools that you possibly can for him to be successful. Don't put any pressure on him until the last year of his contract, the 2020-2021 season. We'll have to see what happens. But moving forward from that, the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Minnesota Timberwolves, it is All-Star Weekend, so some really good stuff. Josh Okogie wasn't bad in the Rising Stars Challenge game. And Karl Anthony Towns, he's now a 2-time All-Star. That's some really good stuff. What's really interesting is that a couple of things happened that I said in the last podcast. I think I said this last Saturday on my podcast. If not a couple of weeks before, maybe on Score North. I can't really remember. 2 things that really should happen with this team. Now, one was deliberately done. The other was more so just kind of pure coincidence. Let's get to the deliberately done factor for this team. Dario Saric has started the last couple of games. Dario Saric has been more comfortable because that's just where he's – look, Dario Saric as a starting 4, that's where he's most comfortable at. Not only is that where he's most comfortable at, that's where he's good at. That's where he's at his best. He started during the 76ers run the last 2 years, or his first 2 years with the Sixers. He started that entire time. They got to the second round before getting eliminated. I think the second round before they got eliminated by the Boston Celtics. That was without Kyrie Irving. But now that he's starting the last couple of games, he's been really good. And actually, if you bring up his stats, just to kind of put it in perspective, now he started the last couple of games, but the last 5 games as a whole, he's averaging just about 16.5 points per game, 7 boards. 3-point percentage is 67%. He's shooting overall from the field 60% from the field. That's some really, really good stuff. And what you want to see more of that, because Taj Gibson, he said, look, I don't care. I can come off the bench. I can start. It doesn't really matter. I think this was done like after they traded for Dario Saric. He's like, look, I can do either. Just don't go back and forth. Just don't flip-flop it back and forth. Because, basketball is a really rhythmic sport. I would say the only sport that may be just as rhythmic as basketball, I would say maybe baseball, as far as pitching and batting is concerned. You got to have your timing right for both of those things. The rest of the infield and the outfield is where you just run around and catch the ball. Okay, fine. But that's the only other sport where it's like your timing, your rhythm, it's a routine, it's everything. Think about this. If you saw the Rising Stars game last night, Kyle Kuzma during halftime, he was asked about, because I think he had like 23 points in the first half. He was asked about this by Rose Gold. And he said, he was asked, like, how does this feel for you? You scored like 23 points. Like, how are you balling right now? Blah, blah, blah. And Kyle Kuzma said, and I'm paraphrasing right now, he said, I'm basically using this game as training or as conditioning for me to stay on par with my fitness for the rest of the season. We haven't played a game. Our last game was 3 days ago, and, I need to stay on top of my game and stay in my rhythm, stay in my groove, stay in my routine. And that's the thing with basketball. When you take a guy like Dario Saric and you have him all of a sudden try to adapt to coming off the bench and playing kind of sporadically with the second unit mostly instead of the first unit where he should belong, and he'll make your team the best at instead of him being on the bench, it takes away his production value. So now that he's starting the last couple of games, this team could be really good. Number 2, this team, and not only that, let's go to actually what the Wolves have done the last 2 games, and this goes into my pure coincidence factor as far as the other thing that I said the Wolves should be doing. Number 2, the Wolves have their last 2 games. They're on a 2-game winning streak before the All-Star break. They beat the LA Clippers. Now, I'm interested to see how the Clippers do for the rest of the season. I kind of wrote them off. They may make the playoffs. But after that trade where they traded away Tobias Harris, I'm just not sure. But they beat the Clippers, and they beat the Rockets, man. Both of the games, their 2-game winning streak, they've won by double digits. So they've won exactly by 10 in both of those games. But that's saying something, especially beating the Rockets at home. For you to be able to do that, that's really, really cool because James Harden, he's been on a tear however many games straight. where he scored 30-plus points in that stretch, he's probably going to win MVP. Not even probably. He is going to win MVP, and that's some good stuff for him. But if you remember that block that Josh Okogie had on him, and this brings me to the factor of Andrew Wiggins being out the last couple of games due to an illness. So I don't wish any harm on him. I hope he certainly gets better. But my factor that I said, the second factor as far as what to do with this team, Dario Saric should start, and Andrew Wiggins should be on the bench. He should be on the second unit. He should earn his way back into the starting lineup, and that's playing smart basketball. If you remember back before he got drafted by the Cavs, number 1 overall, before the Wolves traded for him in the Kevin Love deal, that tournament, that college basketball NCAA tournament with Kansas, we were talking about, or the national media, and we saw it all on TV, his motor, it looked like he just didn't really care. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, and I think they went 1 or done or 2 or done, whatever. They got eliminated really, really early. But you were just saying, like, man, Andrew Wiggins, all this hype and blah, blah, blah. Man, like, what's going on with that? Maybe he's just focused on the NBA draft. You can't even blame him, whatever. But now we're like 4 or 5 years later, and we're still saying the same thing. Andrew Wiggins has all the talent in the world. That block you saw that Josh Okogie had, where the thing is, when you're defending James Harden, and I love this. I love what Josh Okogie's style of play, especially on defense. Offense is, it's whatever. Maybe he can drive to the basket. Taking shots is really not his thing, but that defensive play he had on James Harden kind of reminded me the opposite, the reverse of Manu Ginobili. If you remember in the playoffs a couple years ago, Ginobili was behind James Harden and blocked the shot like to end the game, whatever that was. And then on a couple of nights ago, Josh Okogie stuffed this shot right in front of him. He kept his arms right next to his rib cage the whole time, because if you keep your arms out like extended on James Harden, he will use that against you and draw a foul every single time. He will draw contact on you. So Okogie was really good at staying disciplined, moving his feet, not his arms or his hands. And then once he realized that James Harden was going for the shot, he jumped in, and Andrew Wiggins has the length to be able to do this type of stuff too. Now, his on-ball defense, I think Wiggins is actually pretty good. I think it could be a little bit better. But Josh Okogie basically timed the shot, stuffed the shot, and didn't like land into him, or like, you know, basically, because a lot of guys, they try to contest James Harden's shot, and then all of a sudden they land at his feet or whatever, he falls, and then it's a 3-point free throw attempt right there, or it's an and one for a 4-point play. But Josh Okogie played that perfectly. The point that I'm getting at is Andrew Wiggins has the talent to be able to do whatever it is he wants to do, and that's the thing, what he wants to do. Right now, and we're talking about 4 or 5 years into his career, he's the same guy that he was at Kansas. And that is a detriment to the overall production or the overall strength of the Minnesota Timberwolves. When I think about Andrew Wiggins, I think about this. If you look this up on YouTube, I don't know what it's called, but I think I searched something along the lines of NBA 2K Carmelo Anthony, right? So there was basically this guy that playing an NBA 2K game on the blacktop, like a pickup game, where it was I remember these particular plays. This was a couple of years ago. This was Derrick Rose, now not Minnesota Timberwolves Derrick Rose, Chicago Bulls Derrick Rose, Steph Curry, Carmelo Anthony. There may have been like Dwight Howard and Kevin Durant there. I can't really remember everybody else, but this was like the superstar players a couple of years ago. And they had Carmelo Anthony. It was all focused around Carmelo Anthony. So Melo would just bring the ball up and pass it, and then guys would pass it back to him, and he just jack up shots, whatever. I remember this one particular moment in this video. It's absolutely hilarious because the guy that was recording the game, he was doing voiceover too. So he basically was like voicing Melo and everybody else at the same time. This one particular play, Melo brought the ball up. Or no, D-Rose brought the ball up. This was after Melo was just taking all types of stupid shots, getting double teamed, still taking shots, whatever. And the rest of the team was just like, oh, this is going to be a long game. Here we go. This dude, Melo, called for the ball from Derrick Rose as he was bringing the ball up. He was like, D-Rose, pass me the ball, baby. I'll pass it right back to you. He was like, all right. He gave Melo the ball, and Melo held on to the ball. He was like, oh, yeah, I'm about to take you now. And then like 4, 5, 6, 7 straight pump fakes, and then took a stupid-ass shot after that. And it was like, you know, that's Andrew Wiggins. If you guys saw that celebrity game, which, by the way, I don't know what's a celebrity anymore. I feel like anybody in the world can qualify to be a celebrity, because that game, it was too many people where I'm like, I don't know who you are. There was a couple of people, but for the most part, I'm like, who are these people? But you saw them just driving around and trying to take traffic shots up in the paint with like 4 dudes around him. That's Andrew Wiggins. He's just slightly better at it because he's like 6'8". He's 6 feet 8 inches tall, so he's able to do that. But as far as the adequate level across the league, he's not good at it, and it's ill-advised to do in the NBA. it seems like he just gets the ball, and it's like one of those things where it's like, you ever play pickup sports or pickup hoops out on the playground or out at your local YMCA, whatever it is, and you know this one guy that whenever he gets the ball, you know you're not getting the ball back or no one else is. It's like as soon as he gets the ball, all right, I might as well go back to the other end of the court and play defense because it's basically going to be a brick, or he'll make a miraculous shot, but he takes those miraculous shots on a consistent basis, which isn't good if you're going to win this game. That's Andrew Wiggins. He needs to play smarter. I know that Ryan Saunders, he's done this thing where, we're doing penalties for long twos in practice, and maybe Andrew Wiggins has gotten better at that during practice, but during the games, he reverts back to his usual self. So anyway, the Timberwolves, they looked really good the last couple of games. I know it's a small sample size, but this is something I think Ryan Saunders should keep Andrew Wiggins. Now, he was out with an illness, but when he comes back, he should be on the bench. I don't care how much money he's making. It's the same thing I was saying with Matt Khalil. They signed him to his fifth year option. I'm like, dude, can we just get rid of this dude? Can we just, I don't know, pull somebody up from the bench? I don't care. But look at all this money he's making. He sucks, all right? Andrew Wiggins sucks at basketball. As far as an NBA player, as far as, where does he rank, especially comparing to his salary, he sucks, man. He's really, really bad at playing basketball at the professional level. So he needs to be on the bench until he can prove that he's ready to contribute to the good of this team and being able to win. So anyway, we do this twice a week. Mediokr Best Sports Podcast with Realistic Randy. This podcast on my YouTube channel, Realistic Randy. On Tuesdays, the podcast will be on Score North, Twitter at Realistic_Randy, Facebook at Realistic Randy. We will see you on Tuesday.